Let's be honest. At some point in the last few months, you've looked at a $500,000 house and thought, wait, is this really what a starter home costs now? Not a mansion, not a luxury property, just a normal house in a normal neighborhood. A small kitchen that hasn't been updated in 20 years. Carpet you'd probably replace on day one. A backyard barely big enough for a grill. And while you are standing there scrolling, your brain starts doing something dangerous. It starts comparing. You run your income through your head. You do rough math on monthly payments. You wonder if everyone else figured something out that you somehow missed. Because the market keeps telling you this is normal. Your agent says that's just how things are now. The bank says you're approved, your friends are buying, your parents bought a house on way less. So the quiet assumption becomes, if they can do it, I should be able to do it too. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Most people buying these houses cannot actually afford them. They can qualify for the mortgage, they can sign the papers, they can get the keys, but they cannot afford the life that comes after. So today we're not talking about what the bank will approve. We're going to do the math that decides whether a $500,000 house improves your life or quietly turns it into permanent financial stress. Here's the illusion that traps people. We've been trained to believe that getting approved for a mortgage means we can afford the house. Those two things sound similar. They are not even close. Mortgage approval is a bank calculation. Affordability is a life calculation. The bank only cares about one thing. Will you keep making payments long enough for them to get paid? They don't care if you're stressed. They don't care if you stop saving. They don't care if one unexpected bill pushes you into credit card debt. They just care that the loan doesn't default. But affordability is different. Affordability means you can pay for the house and still breathe, still sleep, still handle repairs, emergencies, and normal life without constant anxiety. The housing market wants you to ask, how much can I get approved for? That's the wrong question. The only question that matters is how much can I buy without turning my life into a financial stress test? And once you see the difference, the rest of this starts to get very uncomfortable. So let's get specific. We're not here to argue about feelings. We're not here to debate optimism or mindset. We're here to answer one simple, brutal question. How much income do you actually need to buy a $500,000 house in 2026 without becoming house poor, without sacrificing savings, and without living one broken appliance away from panic? Not what the bank will let you sign. Not what your agent says is normal. Not what other people are stretching to survive. The number where the payment fits, the bills get paid, the emergencies don't wreck you. And you're still building a future instead of just feeding a mortgage. To answer that honestly, we have to stop guessing. We have to stop rounding down. And we have to look at the real math. Let's start with the baseline reality. In dozens of US markets right now, $500,000 isn't buying you a dream home. It's not a mansion. It's not luxury. It's the entry point. A 1,200 square foot house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a yard that exists more on paper than in real life. In cities like Denver, Austin, Phoenix, or anywhere within commuting distance of a major metro, $500,000 is what normal people are expected to pay for normal houses. Now compare that to income. The median household income in the US sits around $80,000 to $85,000 a year. That means we're asking households earning roughly $84,000 to buy homes that cost 6 times their annual income. If that ratio feels uncomfortable, it should. Historically, housing was closer to 3 times income. 4 times was considered aggressive. 6 times isn't ambitious. It's structural pressure. And once you see that gap clearly, it becomes hard to believe this is just a personal budgeting problem. Now let's talk about where most people's home ownership dreams quietly die. The down payment. The traditional rule is 20% down. On a $500,000 house, that's $100,000 in cash. Not equity, not retirement accounts, not money you technically have. Cash. Here's the problem. The median savings balance in America is under $10,000. So most people aren't a little short. They're $90,000 short. And before you say, I'll just save it, let's be honest about that math too. If you're making $84,000 a year and you somehow manage to save 10% of your gross income, which almost nobody actually does, you're saving about $8,400 a year. At that pace, it takes you 12 years to save the down payment. That's assuming housing prices don't rise. That's assuming nothing goes wrong. That's assuming perfect discipline for over a decade. Most people don't fail at buying a house. They fail before they even get close. So they do what the system quietly nudges them to do. They put less down. Putting less down doesn't solve the problem. It just changes the shape of it. You put down 5 or 10% instead of 20, and you unlock a new monthly charge called PMI, private mortgage insurance. This is essentially a poverty tax. You pay it every month because the bank decided you're too risky, and the insurance doesn't protect you, it protects them. Depending on your loan, PMI runs anywhere from $200 to $400 a month, right out of the gate. Now let's look at the actual loan. You put 10% down, $50,000 you somehow scrape together, and you're left with a $450,000 mortgage. At current interest rates heading into 2026, somewhere in the 6 to 7% range, your monthly payment for principal and interest alone lands around $2,700 to $2,800. And that's just the loan. No taxes, no insurance, no maintenance, no surprises. That's the number people see and think, okay, maybe we can make this work. But here's the problem. We haven't even talked about living in the house yet. This is where the math stops being abstract and starts crushing people in real life. Because the mortgage payment isn't the cost of owning the house. It's just the entry fee. Let's stack everything else. First, property taxes. Depending on where you live, you're looking at $4,000 to $8,000 a year. If we're being conservative, call it $500 a month. Then homeowners insurance. This used to be cheap. It isn't anymore. Climate risk alone has pushed premiums through the roof. In many markets, you're paying $250 to $350 a month just to stay insured. Next comes maintenance. This is the cost everyone ignores until something breaks. The rule of thumb is 1% of the home's value per year. On a $500,000 house, that's $5,000 annually, about $417 every month. And remember PMI, that penalty for not being wealthy enough to put 20% down, add another $200 to $400 a month. Now let's add this up. Mortgage payment about $2,850, property taxes $500, insurance $300, maintenance $417, PMI $300. Your total monthly housing cost is now sitting around $4,200 to $4,500. And this assumes nothing breaks. No roof issues, no plumbing disasters, no special assessments, no HOA surprises. This is the real cost of that $500,000 house. Not what the listing shows, not what the bank pre-approval says. This number. And once you see it written out like this, there's nowhere left to hide. Now we reverse the math. Financial advisors will tell you that housing should stay under 28% of your gross income. That's the safe zone. That's where people can still save, absorb shocks, and live their lives. If $4,300 is 28% of your income, you need to be making roughly $180,000 a year. That's the number where this actually fits. Banks, of course, are more flexible. They'll approve you up to 43% debt to income. That's how people get into trouble. Even under that looser standard, you still need to earn around $150,000 annually to carry this house without immediately drowning. So let's be very clear about what this means. At $150,000, you're tight. Every surprise hurts. Every dip in income matters. At $180,000 and above, you finally have room to breathe. That's the real affordability threshold. Not approval. Not optimism. Income. And once you know that number, everything else people say about buying this house starts to sound very different. Now here's the part that usually makes people uncomfortable. Only about 10 to 20% of US households earn $150,000 a year or more. That's it. Which means 80% of American households do not make enough income to comfortably afford a $500,000 home by any reasonable financial standard. And yet these houses are being sold every single day. This isn't because the math is wrong, it's because the math is being ignored. This isn't an opinion. It's not a mindset issue. It's not about working harder. It's just math being honest. So if most households can't afford these houses, who's actually buying them? Some are dual-income households in high-paying fields. Two strong salaries doing the work of one impossible one. Some have family help, down payment gifts, early inheritances, quiet safety nets nobody talks about. And some are stretching themselves right to the edge. They're betting on future raises that haven't happened yet. They're assuming nothing goes wrong. They're committing to a payment structure where one job loss, one medical bill, or one bad year would collapse everything. And those last ones are the group we need to talk about next. Let's make this real. Meet a household earning $160,000 a year. Two working professionals, solid careers, comfortably above the national median. On paper, they look like exactly the kind of people who should be able to buy a $500,000 house. But paper lies. After federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, and a modest retirement contribution, their take-home pay lands around $9,500 per month. That's their real money, the number that actually matters. Now subtract the housing cost we just calculated, roughly $4,300 a month. They're left with about $5,100 to live on. Now life shows up. 2 car payments because both adults need to commute. There goes $800. Car insurance for 2 vehicles. Another $250. Gas because suburbia isn't walkable. $300. Student loans because those degrees didn't pay for themselves. $600. Health insurance premiums their employer doesn't fully cover. $400. Groceries for a household trying to eat reasonably healthy. $800 if they're careful. Utilities for a larger house. Electricity, water, gas, internet, phones. $450. Now they're down to about $1,500. And we haven't touched clothing, kids' activities, medical, co-pays, car repairs, travel or savings. No emergency fund. No real investing beyond a basic 401k. No margin. This household isn't reckless. They're not buying jet skis. They're not taking luxury vacations. They're just living inside a house the market told them was normal. And that's what being house poor actually looks like. Not failure, not irresponsibility, just math squeezing you until there's no room left for life. This is what life actually feels like when you're house poor. It's not dramatic. There's no single breaking moment. It's constant tension. You check your bank account before buying groceries, not because you're irresponsible, but because you need to make sure nothing unexpected hits before the mortgage clears. Every expense gets filtered through one question: can we still make the payment? The car makes a noise you don't recognize. Your stomach tightens, because if that repair is more than a few $100s, something else doesn't get paid this month. The water heater dies on a Sunday night. That's not an inconvenience. That's a crisis. You stop thinking long-term. Retirement becomes theoretical. Savings feel optional. Investing feels irresponsible. Because you're busy surviving, and the stress doesn't come and go. It sits in the background of everything. You feel it when you open mail. You feel it when your boss mentions restructuring. You feel it when inflation ticks up another 0.5%. This is the hidden cost of stretching for a house you can't afford. Not just money, mental bandwidth. And once your entire financial life revolves around protecting one payment, everything else quietly starts to shrink. Here's the part that makes this even harder to swallow. The system doesn't care that you're stressed. The bank doesn't make money when you're comfortable. It makes money when you carry the loan for 30 years. The real estate agent doesn't get paid based on how well you sleep at night. They get paid when the deal closes. The seller doesn't care whether the house fits your long-term financial reality. They care about the highest offer that clears inspection. Every incentive in the transaction points in one direction: get you into the house, not make sure you can survive living in it. That's why banks approve loans at debt-to-income ratios that leave no margin. That's why agents normalize stretching. That's why you keep hearing everyone feels tight at first. Once you sign the papers, the risk shifts entirely onto you. You're locked in. The system already got paid. And if things go sideways, job loss, medical issue, economic downturn, that's your problem now. The system is designed to get you in the house, not to make sure you survive it. And understanding that changes how this entire decision should be made. So let's stop dancing around this. If your household income is south of $140,000 to $150,000 a year, stop. Stop looking at $500,000 houses. Stop asking what the bank will approve. Stop letting agents tell you this is normal. This isn't me being pessimistic. This isn't fear talking. This is math drawing a hard line. Below that income level, this house doesn't stretch you. It traps you. It turns every paycheck into damage control. It converts small problems into financial emergencies. It forces you to organize your entire life around protecting one payment. There is no medal for surviving a mortgage you shouldn't have taken. There is no trophy for being house poor. If the numbers don't give you margin, the answer isn't try harder. The answer is no. And saying no here isn't quitting. It's choosing not to financially drown yourself for a set of walls. Let me show you what happens when people ignore this. Month 1. You make the payment. It's tight, but you feel relieved. You tell yourself it'll get easier. Month 4. The car needs new brakes. $800 you didn't plan for. It goes on a credit card because there's no room anywhere else. Month 7. It's July. The air conditioning dies. The repair quote is $3,500. You don't have it. You finance it. Now you're paying interest just to stay cool in your own house. Month 9. Your spouse's hours get cut, or a bonus disappears. Suddenly you're $600 short every month. There's no emergency fund because there was never space to build one. Retirement contributions quietly pause. Credit card balances creep up. Now every decision gets filtered through panic. Can we still make the mortgage? Can we push this bill one more month? What happens if something else breaks? This is how people become prisoners in houses they technically own. Not all at once. Slowly. Predictably. And once you're here, getting out is expensive, humiliating, and devastating to your financial future. This is where we need to redefine what wealth actually means. Wealth is not owning a house at any cost. It's not a Zillow screenshot. It's not saying, at least we bought something. Real wealth is margin. It's having enough room in your budget that a broken appliance is an inconvenience, not a crisis. It's being able to invest consistently without wondering if you'll need that money next month. It's sleeping at night without running mental math every time an email notification hits your phone. Wealth is flexibility, the ability to change jobs, to handle a bad year, to say no without fear. Home equity doesn't give you that if it's locked behind a payment you can barely carry. Equity you can't access doesn't reduce stress. It increases it. A house is only an asset if it improves your life. If owning it forces you into permanent financial tension, it's not building wealth. It's consuming it. And the mistake people make is confusing ownership with security when in reality security comes from margin. So here's the takeaway. Stop asking what you qualify for. That question was never designed to protect you. Start asking what you can actually afford. Not just this month, not just on paper, but in real life over years with setbacks, stress, and uncertainty included. If the math doesn't give you margin, walk away. There is no prize for buying a house you can't afford. There is no badge of honor for being house poor. And there is no rule that says you have to participate in a market that doesn't make sense for your income. Sometimes renting and investing is the smarter move. Sometimes waiting is the smarter move. Sometimes choosing a smaller, cheaper house is the smarter move. And sometimes the smartest move isn't buying the house at all. It's recognizing when the math is broken and choosing not to play. That's not failure. That's clarity. And clarity is what keeps your future intact.